Some of history's wildest myths, they were 100% real. Lost cities buried under the jungle, warrior women historians called impossible, a Viking magic crystal that actually worked. For centuries, stories like these were dismissed as exaggeration, folklore, or pure fantasy. The kind of tales grandparents tell around the fire that you're not really supposed to believe. But what if some of those myths were actually fragments of truth? What if legends, tall tales, and ancient stories were really clues to discoveries just waiting for us to uncover them? Today, we're diving into 7 historical myths that scholars once laughed at, until hard evidence proved they were real. From sunken treasures to hidden cities and warriors thought impossible, these stories will make you question everything you thought you knew about history, especially if you grew up thinking myths were just stories. Number 1. The Lost City of the Jaguar, Hidden Maya Metropolises. Archaeologists long assumed the Maya world was just scattered villages, small farms, a few pyramids, and isolated temples. Ancient texts and local legends hinted at massive cities, but scholars often dismissed them as exaggeration. Then, LiDAR, a laser radar that maps the ground beneath dense forest, changed everything. Scanning parts of Guatemala and Honduras revealed vast urban landscapes hidden under centuries of jungle. Tens of thousands of buildings, towering pyramids, plazas, canals, causeways, and defensive walls. What had seemed like isolated ruins were actually sprawling, interconnected cities stretching across hundreds of square miles. This was a thriving civilization of millions, with trade networks, intensive agriculture, political centers, and religious complexes. They engineered irrigation, terraced hillsides, and fortified key sites. The so-called lost cities of the Maya weren't lost, they were invisible until technology revealed them. What began as a jungle legend proved to be a real network of mega-cities, reshaping how we understand ancient America. Number 2. Amazon warrior women. For centuries, historians dismissed Amazons as fantasy. Greek myths described them as fierce female warriors, riding horses, firing arrows, and fighting heroes. Scholars saw this as storytelling, a metaphor for chaos, and assumed real women couldn't have fought in battle. Archaeology told a different story. Across the Eurasian steppes, researchers explored burial mounds called kurgans and found warriors buried with bows, arrows, spears, swords, and horse gear. Initially assumed male, modern DNA analysis and skeletal studies revealed that a significant number were women, up to a third in some regions. Their bones showed years of horseback riding, archery, and battle injuries, broken limbs, arrow and sword wounds, many healed, proving they survived multiple fights. These weren't symbolic burials or ceremonial roles, they were battle-hardened soldiers. Legends of Amazons may exaggerate, but they preserve a historical truth. Cultures on the steppes trained and fielded real female warriors, not mere myth. Number 3. The Sunken Gold of the Aztecs. Conquistadors wrote about Aztec gold that vanished. Centuries later, divers started finding it. When Spanish forces marched into Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire, they were stunned by its wealth. Stories soon spread of Moctezuma's incredible treasures, mountains of gold, silver, and sacred objects. But during the chaos of conquest, much of that treasure supposedly disappeared. Over time, the tale of lost Aztec gold started to sound like a pirate story, more fantasy than fact. Then, in the late 20th century, archaeologists and divers began exploring the remains of what was once Lake Texcoco, the lake on which Tenochtitlan was built. In 1978, they uncovered caches of artifacts on the former lake bed, gold ornaments, jewelry, and ceremonial objects that had been deliberately thrown or placed into the water. These weren't random coins dropped by accident. Many of the pieces were intricately crafted, engraved with images of gods, rituals, and complex symbols of Aztec cosmology. Some looked like offerings meant for deities, others seemed very much like treasures someone wanted hidden from invaders. The finds confirmed that reports of Aztec gold submerged in the waters around Tenochtitlan were real. The Aztecs did sink valuable items, whether as sacred offerings or desperate attempts to keep them out of Spanish hands. The legend of Sunken Aztec treasure wasn't just a campfire story. It was a memory of real actions taken during one of the most dramatic clashes of civilizations in history. Number 4. The Viking Sunstone. Imagine holding a cloudy crystal up to a gray sky and still pointing exactly to the sun. Vikings sailed across the North Atlantic in open ships, reaching Iceland, Greenland, and even North America. The sagas mention a mysterious sunstone, a device said to reveal the sun's position in fog, storms, or just after sunset. For a long time, historians dismissed it as metaphor or magic. Researchers later linked the myth to Iceland spar, a kind of calcite crystal found in shipwrecks from the period. Iceland spar is birefringent. Looking through it and rotating it splits light into two images. By observing these changes, navigators could detect polarized light in the sky and determine the sun's direction, even when obscured by clouds or below the horizon. The Viking Sunstone wasn't a magical gem. It was a clever, low-tech scientific tool explaining how Vikings traveled vast distances with surprising accuracy long before magnetic compasses appeared in Europe. Number 5. The City of Troy. Sure, no wooden horse has turned up, but the city behind the legend is real. Homer's Iliad tells of Troy, a mighty city besieged for 10 years, heroes clashing under God's watch, and a giant wooden horse used to sneak soldiers inside. For centuries, scholars saw it as fiction, a great poem, not history. In the 1870s, archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann began digging at Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey. Layer by layer, he uncovered multiple cities built atop one another, with walls, gates, and buildings, a rich, fortified settlement. One layer, around 1200 BC, showed violent destruction, fire, collapsed structures, and signs of conflict. No wooden horse has appeared, and likely never will, but the physical city, Troy, existed in the right place at roughly the right time, matching Homer's tradition. The Iliad may cloak events in gods and heroics, but it preserves a memory of a real city and a real war. Number 6. Thales and the solar eclipse. Modern astronomy checked the story, and the eclipse, Herodotus described, actually happened. Thales of Miletus, a Greek philosopher living in the 6th century BC, is said to have predicted a solar eclipse that darkened the sky in the middle of a battle between the Medes and the Lydians. According to Herodotus, the sudden darkness terrified both armies, and they agreed to stop fighting. For a long time, historians doubted this. Predicting eclipses thousands of years ago sounded like something added later to make Thales look like a genius. But modern astronomers can calculate past eclipses with incredible accuracy. When they ran the numbers, they found that a total solar eclipse did cross that region on May 28, 585 BC, exactly where and when the ancient account places it. We still don't know the exact method Thales used. He might have drawn on Babylonian records, which tracked cycles of celestial events, or recognized early patterns like the Saros cycle. But the key point is this: the eclipse itself really happened, on the right date, in the right place. What sounded like an impossible brag turned out to be a real historical event. The story shows that ancient observers were far more skilled at reading the sky than many people assume. Number 7. The mysterious achievements of the Olmecs. Early visitors saw Olmec heads and claimed giants must have built them. The truth is even more impressive. In the tropical lowlands of what is now Mexico, the Olmec civilization flourished between about 1500 and 400 BC. When modern explorers first encountered the colossal stone heads the Olmecs left behind, some over 3 meters tall and weighing many tons, they struggled to imagine how an ancient culture could create and move them. Myths sprang up about giants, lost races, or outside civilizing visitors. Archaeology painted a different, far more grounded picture. The heads were carved from basalt, quarried many miles away, then transported with human labor, logs, ropes, and clever use of levers and ramps. No giants, no lost super race, just determined people with a deep understanding of materials and mechanics. Excavations revealed that the Olmecs also built ceremonial centers, plazas, and complex urban layouts. They developed distinctive art styles, religious symbols, and social hierarchies. In many ways, they were one of Mesoamerica's earliest mother cultures, influencing later civilizations like the Maya and Aztec. The myth of giants was an attempt to explain an incredible achievement, but the real story, that ordinary humans with no metal tools or beasts of burden could accomplish this, is even more astonishing. From hidden Maya megacities to Viking Sunstones, from Amazon warrior women to sunken Aztec treasures, these myths show that the line between legend and history is much thinner than we usually imagine. Stories passed down through generations aren't just entertainment, they're fragments of memory, observation, and human ingenuity, filtered through culture and time. Myths often preserve real events, real places, and real knowledge that science and archaeology can later uncover. So what other impossible stories might turn out to be true? Which legends are we dismissing today that future researchers will prove right? If you enjoyed this, check out my video on 7 of the biggest lies in history people still believe today. I'll link it right here on screen and in the description. And tell me in the comments, which myth in this video surprised you the most, and which one deserves a full deep dive? History isn't finished. Sometimes, the myths we dismiss are the ones that change everything.